Here's 5 bizarre foreign films you'll want to check out. Super Fuzz. Super Fuzz is a 1980 superhero comedy from director Sergio Corbucci. For those of you too young to know, the term fuzz was slang meaning police. Super Fuzz, sometimes listed as Super Snooper, was about Dave Speed. He's a rookie cop that accidentally gets a massive blast of nuclear radiation, which turns him into a super cop. He's now a complete doofus that has super speed, endurance, telekinesis, and whatever else the plot decided he needed at the time. Oh, and he's also indestructible. The movie doesn't take the subject even the tiniest bit seriously, and as such, everything is wonderfully over the top and goofy. The director was known for doing spaghetti westerns, but in the 70s he pivoted towards comedy. He came up with the idea and filmed it in Miami with a partially American cast as a way to appeal to the American audience. It starred Italian actor Terence Hill, who was well known for his spaghetti westerns like They Call Me Trinity. He starred in a number of films opposite his friend Bud Spencer, movies like God Forgives, I Don't, and the western musical The Crazy Kids of War. Anyway, Hill was poised to be a star in America, but his English-language films like Mr. Billion and March or Die underperformed. So while he is known over here to people like me, most mainstream American audiences aren't very familiar with him. Super Fuzz was an attempt to play at the sillier side of the actor, and I thought it was hilarious. The movie pushed everything absurd to the nth degree, with Hill hamming it up as much as possible. The movie co-starred Ernest Borgnine, who was channeling a little Quentin McHale. At least he wasn't doing that other thing.
I masturbate a lot.
An absurd, funny movie that is just overwhelmingly fun. It's currently available on both Amazon Prime and Tubi. Frankenstein Conquers the World. While there have been tons of kaiju films over the years, this one is by far one of the most bizarre. Originally called Frankenstein vs. Baragon, or Frankenstein vs. the Subterranean Monster Baragon, it was directed by Ishiro Honda and released in Japan in 1965. This was a Japanese and American co-production between Toho and AIP. The Japanese version was released on August 8, 1965. AIP took the film, re-edited it, dubbed it in English, and released it as Frankenstein Conquers the World, and released it on July 8, 1966. Henry G. Saperstein, the American producer, had a new ending created for the international version, in which Frankenstein fought off a giant octopus. The ending was scrapped due to the fact that he felt the octopus didn't look very good. The film wasn't much of a monster hit, but even still, Toho released a direct sequel, The War of the Gargantuas. The movie frequently showed up on TV with Creature Double Feature, and then later on TNT's Monster Vision, which is where I saw it for the first time. Years later, in 2007, the film was released on DVD with all 3 cuts of the film. It was then restored in 2017, again with all 3 versions. Director Guillermo del Toro has stated that Frankenstein vs. Baragon and The War of the Gargantuas are 2 of his favorite kaiju films, especially The War of the Gargantuas, which he said influenced the opening for his film Pacific Rim. Frankenstein Conquers the World is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel. Opai Volleyball. If you know Japanese slang, you know Opai means boobs, so the translation of the title is essentially Boobs Volleyball. With a name like that, you'd think this is going to be something like a live-action DOA Extreme Beach Volleyball, but really, it's something unexpectedly wholesome. Sorta. The movie's about a high school volleyball team of overly excited male teens. Due to them never being able to get enough members for their team, they haven't been able to compete. Not that they want to. They're more than happy to just play games in their clubhouse and ogle the girls' volleyball teams. A young new teacher gets a job at the school, and through a series of comical misdirections, they make a deal where if the team is able to win a game, she'll show them her boobs. The guys find another student to join the team, and they all work together, motivated by boobs. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is horrible. It's really not, though. This is done in the spirit of movies like Porky's and other 80s teen sex comedies. It even takes place in the 80s. As such, it has that very tongue-in-cheek vibe. While the initial motivation to get the kids to work hard is a bit wrong, they use that motivation and actually become better people. They learn the value of teamwork, friendship, loyalty, and push themselves to overcome their adversities. The thing is, this is at its heart a coming-of-age comedy. The story does not go the way you might expect, and really, there are some deeply emotional scenes that you would not expect from a movie called Boobs Volleyball. Also, aside from some brief still images of nude women in magazines, there is no nudity in the film. The movie is not available for streaming, but it is out there, and in my humble opinion, is worth trying to track down. The Cars That Ate Paris. The Cars That Ate Paris is a 1974 Australian horror comedy from director Peter Weir. This is another film where the name makes you think it's going to be something else, especially if you see it under the American title, Cars That Eat People. You might expect this to be something like Maximum Overdrive, but no, it's not like that at all. The movie's about a small town in Australia where the inhabitants cause visitors to get into car accidents so they can steal their luggage and cars. If anyone survives the accident, they take them to a local hospital where they give them lobotomies and keep them around for menial jobs, as well as for medical experiments. They take the cars and strip them for parts to modify other vehicles into bizarre vehicles of destruction. I think the creators of Twisted Metal were fans of this. The movie was inspired by something that happened to the director. He was driving through Europe and saw these roads that diverted him through these weird little towns. He originally wrote it to be more of a straight comedy, but it evolved into a very unusual comedy satire. The reason it's called The Cars That Ate Paris is because the town where all this is happening is Paris, Australia. Despite doing very well at the Cannes Film Festival, it drastically underperformed in Australian theaters. The producers approached Roger Corman trying to get the film released in the US, but he passed on it. Not too long after that, Corman hired Paul Bartel to direct Death Race 2000. Coincidence? Knowing Corman, probably not. No matter though, Death Race 2000 is completely different, and pretty awesome in its own right. The Cars That Ate Paris did make its way to the US by way of New Line in 1976. Only the version we got was a re-edited one under the aforementioned title Cars That Eat People. Director Stanley Kubrick has listed this as one of his all-time favorite films. In the 2015 film Mad Max Fury Road, George Miller included an homage to the classic spiked beetle from The Cars That Ate Paris. The Cars That Ate Paris is currently streaming on Criterion and Flix Fling. There's too many streaming services. Bak Ki Zara. This one is a little more bizarre. You may know it better as the Bollywood Evil Dead. Bollywood Evil Dead is a 2008 horror film from director Salim Raza. While this is a movie from 2008, it really does have the look and feel of something from the 80s. If you know The Evil Dead, then you know what to expect. A bunch of friends go to a cabin in the woods and unwittingly unleash a slew of demonic spirits that possess them and cause all sorts of mayhem. The film plays out fairly in line with the original, although it takes several detours. If you know Bollywood, you know that means there will be song and dance numbers. I've seen my fair share of Bollywood movies, and while these numbers aren't the best, they do add some unintentional humor to the movie, especially if you show this to someone who isn't expecting it. While there are some legitimate scary Bollywood horror movies, this is not one of them. It has some creepiness to it, but it makes for a much better unintentional comedy, possibly due to some of the dialogue's punch being lost in the translation. This line being one of my all-time favorites.
Shut up! Shut up, you rascal!
If you want to check out some legit Hindi horror, I would recommend 13B from 2009 and Alone from 2015. The movie's not streaming anywhere but is currently on YouTube, although it kinda comes and goes. The current upload's only been there for about 4 months. While it's no doom, Bak Ki Zara will keep you entertained. Especially if you want to see what The Evil Dead would be like if it frequently stopped to have fully choreographed dance numbers. That's another 5 films. It's a big world out there, and as such, there are plenty of films outside of Hollywood that are worth seeing. I'll see you all next time. Stay tuned.
Shut up! Shut up, you rascal!